Hi everyone. I am so excited for you guys to take your midterm on Friday, and everything that we've done in class is preparing you for this. It's prepared you for this. You are more than prepared. You've been to class, you've been listening to what he said, but this video is literally just going to be a recitation of the rules of all of the topics that we've covered. I'm also sitting on my couch, so sorry if my video is like moving up and down. It's because my laptop is on my knees. But with that said, I am literally just going to run through the rules of all of the topics that we covered just so you can hear them again. I know that you guys already have the rules, obviously, in your outlines and things like that, but I'm just going to run through them, and hopefully that'll just be another hit at the material that you're getting that will help you on Friday. So the first, occupancy and acquisition. Pearson versus Post established ownership by occupancy in first possession, right? So the elements of occupancy in general is going to be that intent to capture and depriving the animal of its natural liberty. Hiccup. But the specific test out of Pearson is going to be the mortal wounding / deprivation of liberty and continuing the pursuit, right? Or alternatively to those two factors, simply rendering escape impossible. So if you shoot the deer and then you just walk away, that wouldn't hold up under the Pearson rule. You have to render escape impossible, meaning you mortally wounded them enough that you would prevent it from running away, but at the same time, that mortal wounding, you then have to continue the pursuit. So that is the rule from Pearson. Then, of course, Leisner versus Waney, the same basic elements as Pearson v. Post, and in that case, it was two people claiming possession of one animal, so it's like, well, who gets it? So in that case, the distinction was that there was one hunter who inflicted the wound, but another one who continued the pursuit. So in that case, the specific test is much more lenient for Leisner, but essentially substantially permanently depriving the animal of its liberty, or had the animal in their power so that escape was highly improbable before the defendant appeared on the scene in Leisner. So that is the two rules from that. The rationale soli doctrine, or ration soli, essentially is a counterpart to constructive possession for animal cases, basically saying that the landowner, the soil that it's on, soli, soil, is the one who has the, above all, right to the animal. It literally means according to the soil. So essentially, it's assigning property rights to landowners over resources found on their land. But the majority rule for that is that the capture rule is do enough so that the animal is considered your own property if it's found on your land. So that is all you need to know about occupancy and acquisition. Moving on to bailment, my favorite. I have no reason why. It's just my favorite. But bailment essentially has 5 elements of what constitutes a bailment relationship. And it is a conjunctive test as opposed to disjunctive, which means that you have to have all 5 present for there to be a bailment relationship. Just because I deliver something to you doesn't mean it was a personality, doesn't mean it was actual possession, doesn't mean that you have a duty to return. You have to have all 5. So I'm just going to readjust for a second. Okay. Getting excited. So specifically with bailment, the 5 elements are that the item must be a personality. So again, if it's a house, real estate, it's not a bailment, right? It's just a personality, a personal item. So you want to use that personality language, but that just means personal property. Second, actual and rightful possession. You have to have actual and rightful possession, okay? If it was stolen, then the thief would be liable for having stolen the item, but wouldn't be liable as a bailee because it wasn't rightful possession, right? So you couldn't say that somehow a thief has breached a bailment relationship because one of the elements of bailment, rightful possession, wouldn't be there. Next, actual or constructive delivery. So really broad, doesn't necessarily have to include like a direct exchange. And that's the broadity. That's why constructive can constitute delivery. Basically saying, similarly to like donative transfer, where it can be constructive in the sense where you give someone the code to the safe deposit box. That is technically constructive delivery because you're giving them the means to retrieve the item. That is what constructive delivery really is. So it's either that or, hey, here are the keys, either one. But delivery, actual or constructive. The fourth element, express or implied consent. So a bailment relationship cannot be forced on anyone. And both parties must willingly agree to the bailment relationship or else it's not there. And express consent is obviously, I consent to this relationship. Implied consent is, I'm trying to think of another example. I'm drawing a blank. Basically, implied consent would just be the person gives you reason to believe that there is consent, and that belief is founded on factual findings. So express or implied consent. And then lastly, duty to return or to follow the owner's instructions. So saying, yeah, you can borrow my car, but I want you to park it right back in its spot by tomorrow night at 8 p.m., right? That would be an example of a duty to return. Or follow the owner's instructions. Yeah, you can borrow my car, but I'm actually going to be out of town tomorrow night. Can you leave the keys with my husband? Thanks. That is still following my instructions. I'll still get the car back, and you will have done so in a way that I approved, right? So that's duty to return or follow owner's instructions. So that is all 5 elements of bailment. Standard of liability, the standard of care is basically saying, well, how careful do I really need to be, right? So what you're going to do, what you're going to look at is who the benefit was really for. So if it was for the benefit of the bailor only, the owner of the thing, if it was only for the benefit of the bailor, then the person who is the bailee has to show slight diligence, be kind of careful, and would only be liable for something going wrong if there was a gross negligence, if there was a gross deviation from the standard of care. So for example, I'm doing you a favor, right? Say that the relationship is I'm getting you gas or something like that. In that case, then it's for your benefit only. I'm just sitting here. I'm not doing anything. It doesn't benefit me to go get you gas. I'm not getting paid for it, but I'll do it out of the kindness of my heart, right? So that is for the bailor's benefit. So in that case, since I'm not the one who's getting the favor, you're getting the favor, the one doing the favor has to show slight diligence, don't do anything stupid. But if you do something stupid and show gross negligence, that's when you'll be liable. So that's if I drive with a blindfold on. That is grossly negligent, right? But if I'm parked at a red light and maybe I'm a little bit over the line and someone comes out of nowhere and just rams into the back of me, I was still showing slight diligence, and being slightly over the line doesn't necessarily warrant someone rear-ending me and causing damage to your car. That's not gross negligence. Stay inside the lines, but you're catching my drift. Next, if the benefit was for the bailee only. So if my car's out of gas and I go to Caleb, my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to drive your car to school. I'm going to be late. I don't have time to stop and get gas. Your car has gas. I need to use it. That's not benefiting him at all. Hiccups again. That's only benefiting me. So because it's only benefiting me, I need to be so careful because it's not my property, right? It wasn't my property in the other situation either, but in this case, I'm the one who's getting I could be late for class and drive my own car and get gas, but I don't want to be late for class. So Caleb letting me borrow his car that does have gas in it already is a huge favor to me, right? So because of that, I need to be highly diligent and extra careful. And even the slightest bit of negligence, I would be liable for. So for example, if I am pulling into Robertson Hall at 8:10, my class is at 8:15, I'm running late, I want to get there early, and for some reason, I'm just not even paying attention, and I hit the curb and it pops a tire, right? That's not a full-blown car accident involving another car, but that is still not being highly diligent. And that would be slight negligence of barely hitting the curb. And even if it doesn't pop the tire but scuffs it, that's not my property. So technically I could be liable for that because Caleb was the one doing me a favor, right? And then lastly, the easiest, if the benefits for both of you, hey, I'll pay you to go get me gas. I'm getting money and you're getting gas in your car. So because of that, ordinary care under the circumstances, right? Don't leave the car unlocked. Don't be dumb. Ordinary care under the circumstances, right? If you know that it's a really high crime area, there are a lot of car break-ins, you might want to be even more diligent. But if you're in the middle of nowhere and there's only, one employee at this this gas station and you know that no one else is there, no one's coming, you're in the middle of nowhere, leave the car locked, but like you don't have to have eyes on it all the time. You know, run inside, grab a water bottle, whatever you need to do, come back out. Just ordinary care under the circumstances, right? That is all of bailment. That's all you need to know. That's probably like the longest section that we're going to do. I know the video is already at 10 minutes and I am doing a hard stop at 20. 20 minutes is the max. So moving on to bona fide purchase. Bona fide purchase as a general rule is basically a buyer of personal property only takes the title of that property or interest as long as the seller is authorized to convey it. So again, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. You can only buy whatever interest the seller has. So if they don't have the right to sell it to you, what are you going to do? That's when bona fide purchase comes in. If you had no knowledge of that, then that's not fair to you. But at the same time, it's technically not fair to the actual owner either, right? So that's why the court's like, well, then what do we do? What do we do about this? And this is what we do. We look to one of the 4 exceptions, depending on what 2 branches of the law it falls under. So first, the exceptions for common law or equitable estoppel, common law. The question is, did the defendant buy it in good faith with no knowledge of the defect in title for value? That is the kicker. You have to purchase the thing for value. The first is going to be voidable title, right? If the owner sells it to somebody and the sale somehow is induced by fraud, right? At that point, the title's not void, it's voidable. You learned about the fraud, and so you can do something about it. You can say, whoa. You don't actually own that item because of this, and so I can get it back. But this is the problem. The voidable title has to be purchased from the original owner. So you only get voidable title when you buy it from the original owner. But the kicker with that is if there are 3 people, A, B, and C, A is the original owner and B buys it, they have whatever relationship that they have, okay? But if then C buys it from B and my hypo is losing track. I wish I had a whiteboard or something. Basically, this is what you need to take from this. You only get voidable title when you get it from the original owner, and voidable title is one in which you bought it for value, and if you learn about that voidable title before the bona fide purchaser sells it to someone else, then you can get it back. Or before the not bona fide purchaser, before the middleman sells it to someone else, then you can get it back, right? So that is voidable title. A person can only convey whatever title they have. And again, the difference between this one and the UCC voidable title is that if it's identity fraud, then it has to be conducted face-to-face. Whereas UCC, it doesn't have to be conducted face-to-face, can still be identity fraud. Next, apparent authority. The owner has taken action to make it appear as though the ex parte is the true owner of the good. Remember the case where the true owner is, he puts the name on the back of the wagon, right? So you would have every reason to believe that the person whose name is on the wagon, I think it was O'Connor, owns the wagon. Why would you do that if the guy didn't actually own it? Everyone is going to believe that this is his wagon, right? That's how that works. Your name is on it. This is a very different situation, but if your kid goes to kindergarten and he has a book bag, you know that there's someone else in his class named Adam and your kid's name is John, but for whatever reason, you put Adam on his book bag. If Adam takes it and for whatever reason sells it to somebody else, kindergartners here, but you're catching my drift, why wouldn't they believe that it actually belonged to him? His name was on it, right? That's apparent authority. You truly believe that that person has a right to sell that item. That's apparent authority. UCC, or statutory estoppel. Essentially, voidable title, again, same situation as before, but if it's identity fraud, it has to be conducted face-to-face. Or for common law, UCC does not have to be conducted face-to-face. The entrustment rule. This is probably the one that's most commonly tied to like a parent authority type of situation, but entrustment rule actually has these elements that you have to meet, right? So, did the defendant buy it in good faith with no knowledge of the defect in title in the ordinary course of business, right? That means there's one, any entrustment of a possession. So it's an entrustment saying, here, take this. Two, to a merchant who deals in goods of that kind. Someone who ordinarily sells that type of thing or deals with that type of thing. Three, gives him all rights of the entruster or the owner, which again isn't really an element, but you have to still talk about it. And four, to a buyer in the ordinary course of business, comes in and buys that thing. So total judgment call on what constitutes an ordinary course of business, but typically if you buy it in good faith in the ordinary course of the merchant's business, how they regularly do business. If I walk into John Deere and I see a tractor in the corner that I really, really like and I want to buy it, unbeknownst to me, that tractor is actually being worked on, but for whatever reason, it's in the showroom with the rest of the tractors. I would have every reason to believe that that one is on sale. There may not be necessarily a price tag on it or anything else that makes me think that, but at the same time, you know, if I believe that this is a tractor that's for sale and I go up to the owner of John Deere and I say, hi, I would really like to buy this, and he lets me, I could keep it because that is the thing. It is an entrustment of possession. The original owner entrusted John Deere with this tractor so that they would fix it. Two, a merchant who deals in goods of that kind, John Deere Tractors, deals in John Deere tractors. Three, John Deere now had all of the rights of the entruster. Again, that really just means that he had the rights to take care of it. He had the rights, not necessarily that John Deere now owns it. There's clearly a situation where the owner is going to come back after the whatever is fixed on the tractor. But if I walk in and John Deere actually lets me buy that thing, I would get to keep it. That doesn't mean that the original owner has no way of recovering anything. I mean, he can sue that guy for sure. But technically, I would get to keep that tractor that I bought in the ordinary course of business. Next, adverse possession. You're just going to look at the ocean elements. You're going to see if it's open, so it's consistent with how the true owner would have held that thing. C, continuous, meaning it's nonstop in having it. The whole time that the statute of limitations has been running, you have had that thing. Unless, of course, it's a situation of tolling or tacking, which we'll get to. E, exclusive use by the person in question. A, it was adverse, meaning that it was inconsistent with the true owner's wishes. And N, notorious. It's non-permissive. The owner did not give permission for them to use it in that capacity. Or else it's not notorious. So the havoc elements are the alternative, which is like hostile, actual, visual, exclusive, and continuous. Visual is the same as open. Hostile is the same as adverse. Exclusive is exclusive, continuous is continuous, and actual is the same as open. I can't remember. They all five of them have the same elements. And so I know DeGraff mentioned that in class. So for some reason, I just can't remember it right now, but they do all go together. So the approaches, there's going to be ocean alone. Some people will look at ocean elements only. 2, ocean plus good faith. You have to have good faith as well as the ocean elements. And then there's the discovery rule, which is the O'Keefe case where the statute of limitations does not run until the owner figures out that there's been an issue. And that's when it begins to run, not just when the person starts to hold the item and use it. Tacking is where if one person has it, and all of the elements of the ocean elements were present, and then they sell that piece of property or whatever, and the new owner, if they're in privity with each other, then this new owner can take all of the time that this first person had that item, and they can be combined together so that this new owner can get to that adverse possession point and meet the statute of limitations, right? The majority of states allow that. The majority of states allow tacking for sure. And then the minority is that the states that don't allow it, but the far majority do. Accession. Accession is the mode of acquiring property that belongs to someone else, but because it involves the addition of value to it, you might be able to keep that item. So it belongs to someone else, but you fix it up. The court's going to say, have you done enough where it now belongs to you? So requirements, the common law is going to be a substantial change / increase in value, whereas the civil law tradition is substantial change, increase in value, and the good faith of the possessor, right? So typically, this is how the courts will proceed, 2 ways. If title passes from the original owner to the good faith possessor, even if it's an honest mistake, if title passes, then the original owner will just receive damages of how much that piece of property was worth when the good faith purchaser got it previous to or prior to the fixing up, right? If it's like a really, really crappy car and technically belongs to you, but title passes to somebody else, and say that car was worth $1,000, and then they fix it up, they put new rims on it, they paint it, they put in a new engine, all of a sudden that thing is worth $15,000, you're not going to get $15,000 because you didn't have that interest in it when it was given to that good faith purchaser. You're going to get $1,000 back. You're going to get what it was worth before you lost it. The other one is if title doesn't pass, there's a few approaches. One, there could be a good faith purchaser, right? Or good faith improver, where if the improvement can be severed from the article without damaging it. So if it was really a new engine and you can just take it out, put it over here, put the old one back in, then the improvement can be removed and we'll just go to the good faith buyer and they can put that new engine in another vehicle. If it was like a paint job or something of that nature where you can't really remove that without damaging the vehicle itself, then in that case, the removal, if it would damage the original article, the item would go back to the original owner with the improvements included. So that's really tricky because the improver then loses it all, which is a super unfortunate situation, but hopefully that's not usually the case. Usually it's going to be some kind of improvement like a new owner, a new engine, something like that. And then, of course, if there's a bad faith improver, so there's like a thief, they're going to acquire no title and they don't get to keep anything, right? That's just how it works. Yeah, so that is accession. And again, just like a hypo, if you take your car for an oil change, right, then the worker adds a new transmission. That's $5,000 and you didn't ask for it. Your original oil change that should have cost $50 max, it's not going to be $5,050 for an oil change just because they put in a new transmission that you didn't ask for. You don't have to pay for that. That's why accession exists. That's why sometimes it's fair where I thought I owned this car, so of course I fixed it up. I shouldn't have to lose it. Yeah, you're right. That guy did enough to improve it so that he could keep it. Whereas in the situation of an oil change, it's like, I didn't ask for a new transmission. I didn't ask for any of this. I'm not paying for it. But I get to keep it because that's on you, right? That's the situation. Now, last but not least, donative transfer, the most recent thing we learned. I'm almost done. I know I'm at 23 minutes. My new number is 25. I will stop. This will take 2 minutes. Donative transfer, basically a gift, a present. You're welcome. A voluntary transfer of title of property without consideration. So no consideration. You didn't pay for it. This is a free gift. Elements. It has to be voluntary. It has to be without consideration, and there has to be present transfer of title. Those are the 3 things that have to be present, but as we noted in class, that last one, present transfer of title, is split into 3 other categories, 3 other elements. And those are the really important ones, right? So you have to know that it was voluntary. You have to know that there was no money exchanged, but this is the real analysis, is the present transfer of title, right? The first one is that it was present intent. The donor intends to give it to you in that moment, on that day, at that time, not on your wedding day, not when you have a baby, but right now. This belongs to you now. Me telling you I'm going to give you a car when you get married, cool. That's not a gift. I want the car now. That's the present intent. Next is delivery. 3 forms of delivery: actual, constructive, and symbolic. Actual meaning I physically give it to you. Which is always going to be the preferred method by any court, but some situations like a car, a house, those are situations where you can't just hand it over. It's too heavy. I'm not the Hulk. So that would be like, oh, here is something around my house. Here is a set of knives to cook with. Here, you take them. You're welcome. Constructive delivery. The donor gives the donee the means to obtain the possession. So in that case, it would be like a code to a safe deposit box or something of that nature, saying this is how you can get the item, but once you use this to get it, that item is yours, right? So that's constructive. Next is symbolic delivery, meaning, hey, here's a little toy car, a little Matchbox car. Maybe you should go look in the garage. Like that's kind of like, it's like a gesture as a symbol of a gift. Or sometimes, as you saw in a case, it'll be a letter saying, you know, this is the example of one of the cases that right now I can't remember the facts of. It's really awkward. But if I give you a cow, right, and then saying, this is the cow, and this is to symbolize that I am leaving my entire herd to you, that would be a symbolic delivery. Saying, this is one, just a piece of the whole, though. You get all of them. That is a symbolic delivery. Last but not least, the last thing to talk about is what types of gifts there are. Inter vivos made during the lifetime of the giver of the gift, the transfer, or cannot be revoked by the donor. It cannot be revoked. It's a gift. It belongs to you. I can't take it back. If those elements are met, if it was voluntary, if there was no consideration, if the present transfer of title elements were met, it belongs to you now. Causa mortis, a gift made in anticipation of the owner's imminent death or the donor's imminent death. So I have this horrible, horrible fatal disease, and I want to leave this thing to you. I'll tell you, I am literally on my deathbed. I clearly am not going to be able to give this to you at another time, so I'm giving it to you now. That actual gift becomes absolute when the donor actually dies from the anticipated peril. And this is still a gift. I know it sounds like, well, when I die, you can have this. That doesn't mean that it isn't present. It is. It's a causa mortis gift. So you can have them both. You can have a causa mortis gift saying, in anticipation of my impending death, it's coming, it's imminent. This is the gift that you'll get when I die. It'll become absolute. That still is a present transfer. So make sure that you notice that it's only a causa mortis gift if it is given to you because I'm on my deathbed. It still is present, a present transfer of title, even though you don't necessarily receive title until I die. However, then that gift is entirely revocable at any time until the death. Automatic and immediate revocation are under two circumstances. One, the donee dies before the donor. So if I say to Lacey, I want to give this to you because I'm about to die, and then Lacey dies, I get it back because the person I was going to give it to, I can't receive it. So I could give it to someone else, or it could be part of my estate. And then lastly, the donor recovers. So if I recover from the death, or from, oh my gosh, Jesus Christ, he is the only one who's ever recovered from, I don't know, there's a lot of stories about that. Anyway, if I recover, then I don't have to give it away anymore. It will have been revoked, and I will have it back because I am healed. Yay, I should get to keep my things. So that is everything. Super great. I'm so excited for you guys. If you have any questions, I'm also here, but just remember to write an IRAC. Tell them the issue. Tell them the rule. Analyze that rule with the facts of the prompt, and then say what that rule led you to, okay? Remember, that stick figure. You're seeing if the shirt fits. If it does, okay, that element's met. Try to put on the shoes. If it fits, that element is met. Just work through it like that. I always tell people that your rule is kind of like the bare bones. It's like a rubric, right? It's like just the bare bones of something. And then when you start to analyze it and you talk about how this fact goes with this portion of the rule, if they match, great. Move on with your analysis. Keep filling in that rubric until you know, beyond the shadow of a doubt, if it's met or if it's not. I'm here for any questions. Make sure to give the evidence for an element being met and evidence against it if it's not met. And that's all. You guys are going to be amazing, and I'm always here. This was 30 minutes, and I know you guys are studying, but hopefully you can take 30 minutes to watch it. If not, clearly you have if you're this long, if you're this far in. But thank you guys for everything so far. I'm so excited for you, and I'm always here.